Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Today, I want to take you back to July 1861, the first Battle of Bull Run, and the officer pictured here, Isaac Cohen of the 8th New York State Militia. He and his regiment were in the thick of the battle, fighting next to the famed 14th Brooklyn Infantry for part of the time. And so the story goes, Cohen came upon a wounded Confederate soldier and stopped to offer the man who was grievously wounded a drink of water. As Cohen was with this Confederate soldier, he realized that the wound was beyond grievous. It was mortal. And in fact, the Confederate was dying. At some point during this exchange, Cohen recognized that the soldier somehow found out that the Confederate was Jewish. Cohen himself being Jewish, the two men had a unique bond because of their religion. And Cohen stayed with the Confederate soldier until he died. This story appeared about 2 weeks after the battle in an influential newspaper, the Jewish Messenger, out of New York City. It's an amazing and poignant story of two brothers in the Jewish faith on opposite sides of the conflict in the first big battle of the Civil War, fighting on opposite sides, yet believers in their faith, sharing the same faith, much like their Christian brothers would. A moving story, as I mentioned. It's too bad it's not true. It's a fabrication. About 2 weeks after this poignant story appeared in the Jewish Messenger, Cohen wrote to the newspaper a letter to the editor saying, I have no knowledge of this incident, nor did I participate in such an event. So you have to ask the question or wonder, why did that report appear in the Jewish Messenger? Who wrote it? How did it get there? Who was the individual? Well, most of that remains a mystery, but I can tell you that Adam Mendelsohn put this false narrative into context in his 2022 book, Jewish Soldiers in the Civil War, the Union Army. Mendelsohn explains it in this way, and he relates it to the popular theme of the Brothers' War. Quote, although it was sad that war should pit brothers in a twofold sense, brothers in faith and nationality, against one another, the moral was clear. Jews could simultaneously be brothers in arms to their Christian comrades, citizens of unimpeachable loyalty, willing to shed the blood of Jewish Confederates and maintain filial feelings towards these same Jews. So Mendelsohn is making this connection between the Jewish brothers of faith fighting the war along with their Christian counterparts, showing that they're part of that same sense of religion that bonds people together. And in wartime, the fact that though they were on opposite sides, they were still connected by that faith. Mendelsohn's perspective also reminds me of the many stories of the bonds of masonry that transcended the loyalty to the United States or the Confederate States. I suspect you students of the Civil War have certainly come across a number of tales of soldiers on opposite sides who were Masons and gave themselves special privileges that went beyond the Union blue or the Confederate gray. I found these stories too. The majority of them I found are true, but there are some that were false and embellished. So setting that aside, you may be wondering, how many men of Jewish faith fought in the Civil War? Well, Jonathan D. Sarin of Brandeis University, in his book, Passages Through the Fire, Jews and the Civil War, notes that about 150,000 Jews lived in the North and 25,000 in the South. Overall, about 8 to 10,000 served in the Union and Confederate armies. So, what about Cohen? What's his story? He did, in fact, fight at Bull Run with his comrades in the 8th New York State Militia. They had been activated for a 3-month enlistment in April of 1861. The regiment was popularly known as the Washington Grays, and they were commanded by Colonel George Lyons. As I mentioned, they fought alongside the 14th Brooklyn during part of the First Battle of Bull Run, and like the rest of the Union Army, became caught up in the great skedaddle from the battlefield back to the relative safety of the defenses of Washington, D.C. Cohen and the 8th went on to participate in 2 more calls for federal service. The next one, a 3-month enlistment beginning in May 1862, found the regiment at Yorktown, Virginia during the Peninsula Campaign. Cohen commanded the regiment as captain, and if you look at his shoulder boards, you'll see that he's pictured here at that rank. There was that one more call, last call for 30 days in June to July 1863, part of the emergency call-up of troops during Lee's invasion of Pennsylvania. That ended in the Battle of Gettysburg. The 8th reported to Harrisburg as part of that call-up and participated in several skirmishes with the Confederate Army in the lead-up to the Battle of Gettysburg. Cohen, in fact, had a fairly long history with the 8th, becoming involved with them in the early 1850s. He resigned his commission about 1869. He was still a captain. His life dates and the other details of his life, I haven't found yet. I'm on the lookout for them, and I'm sure at some point they'll turn up. But there you have it, the story of Isaac Cohen of the 8th New York State Militia and the false narrative from the first Battle of Bull Run. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.